Planning, Part 2. What games to shoot? Guideline. If there is a day game, shoot it. It is much easier to shoot a day game than a night game. You have much more light. Question. What sports? Conflicts and limits. You only have 2 cameras. How do you pick from 5 sports happening at the same time? Factors. How many games of a sport to cover? Some sports play more games than other. Example, football has only 5 games. Soccer has 16. How many of the games are home games? Color of the opponent's uniform should not detract. You do not want bright red or orange as your opponent's uniform color. But you won't always know what the color of the opponent's uniform will be. Sometimes they'll appear and it's like, oh darn. Home and versus away colors. You may have to go to away games to avoid opponents in bright, distracting uniform. Location. Home games. Shoot as much as you can at school so you do not have to travel. Near. If or when you cannot shoot at your school, then shoot at the nearby schools. Near schools are those which are within a short, easy driving distance. I use 4 miles. In other cases, it may be less, it may be more. Near is something that you define for yourself. Far, that's the other end of near. In my case, any school beyond 4 miles. Again, like near, you define the boundary between near and far. Basically, far is if the school is too far to drive to, and you won't go there unless you really have to. Issues, especially now, wildfire smoke is a health issue. Wear N95 mask, but be aware outdoor games may be postponed or canceled due to the smoke. Weather, rain. Do not shoot in the rain. Water in the camera means a damaged camera, and that's an expensive repair if it can't even be repaired. The field or court may be unplayable when wet. Baseball, softball, tennis. If your football field is dirt, the dirt could turn to mud. Again, unplayable. You may have personal conflicts. Sport issues. What sport? Golf. You may not be able to shoot at a match. Therefore, you have to shoot at practice. This has to be coordinated with the coach. You can't just show up at a game and expect to be able to shoot pictures there. Some sports are not at school. You have to travel. Example, golf, cross country, diving, and bowling. Calendar issues. This is a sports calendar that I created and we use here at Carmont. On the vertical axis is the date. The horizontal axis is the sport. In this case, it's for winter. Going across by day, you can see the games that are scheduled for that day for each of the sports. Now, how to read this thing is home games are in yellow or green. Nearby games are in orange. Far games are uncolored. For instance, Woodside, San Mateo, Oceana, Mills. Those are far schools. Turquoise. Those are the senior games, basically the last home game. Sports calendar spring. As you can see, in the spring, things get really crowded. Horizontal. Conflict identification on a day. A game conflict. April 4th, in the red square, has 6 games in 4 sports. But what if you only have 2 cameras? Which game or games do you shoot? Team member personal conflict. On April 4th, if you play lacrosse, you can't be shooting baseball, track, or basketball. This is a concern for those of you who are also athletes. Vertical issue identification for a specific sport. Example, for wrestling, there are only 4 meets, and there is only 1 home meet. The only home meet is the last meet. Never wait till the last game to shoot your picks. Murphy will be waiting to mess you up. What if something happens and you cannot shoot that last meet? You have no pictures. Selecting the game, Part 1, Spring. This is the early part of the spring season. You can see there's a lot of sports with nothing scheduled. This is the time to jump on the sports that are scheduled, because later on the calendar gets really crowded and it's hard to start picking sports. So get the sports out of the way that you can early. Standard rule. As I said, shoot the games as soon as possible. Why? COVID is still with us. If the games are put on hold or canceled, there may be no more games to shoot. Whatever you shot is all that you have. And I hope that you have something. COVID. Games are subject to being postponed or canceled due to a positive COVID test of a team member, your team or the opponent. Weather. If it rains, you may not be able to shoot the outdoor games. Smoke. If the wildfire smoke is bad, outdoor games could be canceled or postponed. If a game is canceled or postponed to after your deadline and there are no other games, whatever you shot previously is all that you have. Don't get caught short with no pictures for the game, for that sport. You are most at risk in the spring, where your final deadline may be just a few weeks after the spring sports season has started. Personal assignments. You tend to shoot better at sports you like. If you like football, you tend to shoot football more and better because you know the game. If you don't know the game, you have no idea what's going on. But do not be afraid of learning a new sport. I did not even know what water polo and lacrosse were until I started shooting in 2017. Expand your skills. Practice. The more you shoot, the better you get. The end. Thank you.